you may just want to roll back.
Okay, good morning to most of you. Good afternoon or evening to everyone else. We're pleased to welcome you all to Thailand 201, Supply Chain of Raw Materials. This webinar is produced by JustMag Thai with representation by Lieutenant Colonel Joel Johnson, Bilateral Affairs Officer, in partnership with U.S. Embassy Bangkok, American Chamber of Commerce Thailand, and the U.S. Commercial Service. My name is Brian Keller, Account Executive, Defense Security Portfolio Lead at Kallman Worldwide, and I'll be your host today. Please note that this event is being recorded. If you object to the recording, you may disconnect now. Following the presentation, there will be an opportunity for you to ask the presenters questions. If you would like to have your question addressed, please type it into the Q&A box on the right-hand side of your screen. I will read as many questions as possible at the end of the formal presentation. If we are unable to get to your question during today's program, all unanswered relevant questions will be directed to the presenters, who will provide you with a follow-up after the event. We will make the slides, presenter bios, and the webinar recording available to you all later today. This information will be hosted on the Kallman Worldwide Defense and Security Thailand website, as well as the American Chamber of Commerce website. Now, with the formalities all out of the way, I'm pleased to introduce Catherine Spillman, Senior Commercial Officer, U.S. Embassy Bangkok, Office of Foreign Commercial Services. Catherine, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Brian. Good evening, and thanks to all of you for inviting me to speak at the second Thai Defense Industry webinar. My name is Catherine Spillman, and I am the Senior Commercial Officer for the U.S. Commercial Service at the U.S. Embassy here in Bangkok. I think most of you are familiar with the Commercial Service and what we do, but briefly, our mission is to promote U.S. exports overseas, support investment into the United States, and protect U.S. business interests abroad. Our activities support and create jobs in both the United States and here in Thailand. And on the defense side, we work closely with U.S. defense companies and with JustMag on direct commercial sales. And we also provide advocacy for U.S. companies competing for government procurements and develop and support trade promotion opportunities. We're very pleased to be working with Kallman Worldwide, co-organizer of this webinar, on the U.S. Pavilion at the upcoming Defense and Security 2023 show, and I hope to see many of you there. And please know that both the Commercial Service and the JustMag Bilateral Affairs teams are here to assist you with any questions you may have on the defense market in Thailand. The Kingdom of Thailand is an important market for the U.S. defense industry. And indeed, the Thai military has a defense budget of $5 to $6 billion annually. Thailand is also one of a very special group of countries that the U.S. government has designated as major non-NATO allies, or MNNA countries. MNNA is a designation under U.S. law that provides foreign partners with certain benefits in defense trade and security cooperation. In fact, it's a powerful symbol of the close relationship the United States and Thailand share, and it demonstrates the respect and friendship between our two countries. This status provides military and economic privileges, including such things as eligibility to enter into an MOU or other formal agreement to conduct cooperative R&D with the U.S. Department of Defense on defense equipment and munitions, and allowing MNN country firms to bid on MRO contracts outside the United States. Tonight's webinar focuses on supply chains in Thailand, particularly in the Eastern Economic Corridor. Robust supply chains are highly important for critical defense industries, and I think all of us have really come to appreciate the importance of that resiliency given the impact of COVID and worldwide disruption in recent years. Thailand has manufacturing capabilities that can play a role in supply chain resiliency, and U.S. companies have great contributions to make to Thailand's defense readiness. As we celebrate 190 years of U.S.-Thailand diplomacy, we value both U.S. and Thai companies' continued interest in expanding our longstanding bilateral defense and commercial relationship. I hope that the rest of the evening is very productive for you, and I will then turn the mic back to the other speakers. Thank you very much.
Many thanks for your time and insights there, Catherine. Our next speaker is Barry Crawford. Barry is the Supply Chain Director at Triumph Aviation Services Asia and also serves as Aerospace Committee Co-Chair within the American Chamber of Commerce, Thailand. Barry, take it away.
Okay, all right, I don't need to do my introduction, so we can go to the next page. Supply chain insights. Throughout the event today, we'll be talking a lot about supply chain insights. Supply chain means a lot of different things to everyone, and everybody has a different perspective on it. So the strengths and a little bit of the weaknesses of Thailand's aerospace supply chain infrastructure, we'll go over a little bit about that. And then we'll talk about Thailand's logistics advantages, and there are significant advantages here in Thailand from location and from the infrastructure and opportunities here. What are the key supply chain challenges this year? And then the impacts and strategies to mitigate those challenges. And finally, some of the other speakers will go into more detail about the benefits of the EEC and the BOI, but the free zone concept here in Thailand is very good. And it is a very important aspect in the government's plan to invite investors here. Okay, next page here. So what are we talking about? Where are we at here? So this map of Thailand gives the three main airports, the Don Mueang Airport, the old one, the new airport, Suvarnabhumi, which is not so much new anymore, 20 years now, or close to 20 years. And then the Utapao one. Utapao is the old US military base that has been moved to a commercial and military concept. They've been talking about this for many years to make Utapao the third international airport in Thailand. And just as a backstory, when I came here 30 years ago, I came here under a project, part of the Global Transpark that was being developed out of North Carolina. And Utapao has not moved too much since that time. Thailand's road network services also has been seen a lot of advancement over the last few years. The customs clearances at the borders in the past were very difficult. They have become much smoother now. The truck transport network in between the countries has also improved greatly. And the Eastern Economic Zone, which we call the Eastern Seaboard, are the three main provinces of Chonburi, Rayong, and Chachoengsao. So that's what we're talking about when we say EEC. Next slide, please. This is a beautiful rendering of what the Utapao Airport or Aerotropolis is going to be, or is expected to be in a few years. This, you can see on the right side, is the terminal that's going to be built, the second terminal actually. And then they want to build this massive Aerotropolis complex that are going to have a stadium, a football stadium, you can see in the kind of left bottom, along with all kinds of entertainment venues, hotels, and the residential part too. You can see the left part of that is residential here. Interesting note here, the government has passed a law or regulation to allow only that section that you see there to be open 24 hours, have unlimited alcohol sales, and they're doing that to try to give future investors some incentive to come and open up in this area. Next slide, please. So part of what I'm doing is a regional MRO, and mostly we call narrow body focus here. So this is a rendering a few years ago that Thai Airways was doing. The concept is still alive. Who is going to run it has not yet been decided. This is going to be as part of that Aerotropolis. All right, so now we know where we're looking at. All right, so what's our assessment for this year? So we've got some challenges, we've got some strengths, and we're improving in some places. The first, next slide, please, Brian. The first strength is Thailand's infrastructure. I think most people can agree that Thailand does one thing well, and that's build roads and build infrastructure. So the high-speed road transport, high-speed trains are already in process. They will probably open before the airport opens in about 4 or 5 years. So the logistics infrastructure for warehousing, for all types of things on the logistics side is well developed in Thailand. And as I mentioned, the free zone concept is also well developed. It seems anything new being built is free zone, and all of the industrial states are becoming free zone. All right, the next one, a challenge. The raw material procurement is somewhat of a challenge because everything you're buying, you're importing from the US or from Europe. But that's the same for most countries in the region and also for other big countries like Korea and Japan. So it's mitigated. You have to buy what Boeing or Airbus directs you. And most of the time they begin with direction from the companies in their own countries. However, as the supply chain develops, you're able to source alternative materials. But the logistics is a big price to pay when you're out here. So you have to weigh it against the savings in other areas. So that's a challenge. Another strength is logistics and the location. Thailand always says it wants to be a regional hub for everything. Logistics, airports, staffing, the regional, bringing in the low-cost labor from the other countries. So that is definitely a strength. What's improving? The regulatory compliance. This is something that we have gone through difficult times years ago. It has improved significantly. The government about 10, 12 years ago have made a very important and bold decision to separate AOT and CAAT, which are the two regulatories. Before, the commercial airline or airports was running the regulatory section. It was one and the same, and it became a very big problem 10, 12 years ago, but now it's improved significantly. So very easy to work with the regulatories. And when I say that, we're talking about CAT specifically, and EASA, and to a lesser extent, FAA. They're all here helping us. All right, the last challenge, number 5, is the skilled workforce, especially for technical workers. It's very difficult to get qualified people right out, so you end up, many of the companies like ours, we have to do our own training to get the people up to the standard that you need. So that's putting 2 or 3 years of people right from technical colleges, right from the universities, and putting them through the aviation training. And as the MROs are not the sexy part of the airline industry, so the airlines seem to attract the top people, and so we're all fighting for the others. All right, so that's quickly in a snapshot here. So next slide, please. Okay, impacts and strategies. How do you mitigate these things here? All right, one of the biggest things, and I'm talking now from a supply chain, a white collar type of working, not the technical people. It's easy to train somebody to do a supply chain job. It's harder to get them to understand the nuances of it. What I see working with our staff is the supplier management, especially with overseas suppliers, takes a lot of time for them to understand if they ever do it. And that's why you see a lot of foreigners working in these type of roles here. The collaboration, the diversification of supplier base, and the networking is very, very important in this line of work. We're lucky to have a Singapore MRO show, Singapore Air Show, that we can attend, that go to visit all of your other suppliers at the same time. So that's a key to try to diversify and to learn who else is available. All right, material management, strategic sourcing. This is also something doesn't come easy to the planners here. It's very difficult for them to understand how to strategically source and at the same time reduce how much you're throwing away. It's always easy to buy as much as you can, but if you're throwing away what you can't use, it doesn't help. Demand, forecasting, planning, all of this stuff is also something that the Thais are very good at, and they're able to convert what they have, and many of the staff that we get are coming from the automotive industry, so they have that skill. Cost control is something that you have to teach, the continuous improvement, using the lean and OE and other type of things that we are taught in school is also something that we have to bring here. And one of the challenges that I'm working on and have in past years is how to bring more type of chemical distributors, special processes, these special, really specialized things, surface treatment, heat treatment, things like this. That is not ingrained in the Thai manufacturing, and it's something you have to bring in. All right, that's all I got for right now. So thank you very much, and I'll be at the end.
Very good. Thanks for your presentation, Barry.
Thank you,
Our next
Barry.
speaker, there we go. We got Charlie coming in here. Our next speaker, Charlie Blocker, is the founder and CEO of IC Partners Limited, a financial advisory firm with a focus on online startups that also serves as an investment manager for a number of industrial, technology, and hospitality-related joint ventures in Southeast Asia. Charlie also serves as a governor on the board of the American Chamber of Commerce, Thailand. Charlie, over to you.
Hey, great. Thank you, Brian, and good evening and good morning, everyone. You can go to the next slide, please. So really, the theme here, particularly with the Defense and Security Expo coming up in early November, is to give you a little bit of a deeper insight maybe than the last webinar that we had in June, which focused on STEM-based workers. It's just a kind of a reminder of what this business risk environment is and some of the advantages that inure to U.S. investors. So my company and our team, as well as others, here in Thailand, in Bangkok, are always, working to help de-risk inbound investment, whether that's licensing arrangement, whether that's hard investment. So the one thing that I guess we should keep in mind is that we enjoy kind of a U.S. investors, U.S. interests enjoy an unfair competitive advantage with what you see up there, the U.S.-Thai Treaty of Amity. It actually reaches back to 1833, but was really most recently updated back in 1966. And no other foreign country has the right to own 51% or more of their company straight off the bat. We as U.S. interests, we have really what's called a negative list. So banking, exploitation of commercial resources, owning land, telecommunications. They're just 5 or 6, but we can do everything else. So this is a very nice situation that we have with the Royal Thai government, and it facilitates business. There's some links that you can pull up and study on that. So if you're not ready to sort of start a heavier investment, this is an excellent alternative for you. The next one, which Barry spoke a bit about, was the Thailand Board of Investment. So there's a link there, but basically to demonstrate the importance of the Thailand BOI is as of today, with we've just had an election here, but the BOI actually folds up into accountable to the Ministry of Finance, which reports directly to the new Prime Minister. So it's that elevated, it's that significant. The Board of Investment is the arm that, as we'll see in a minute, that really gives promotional incentives to come in. And in that same vein of de-risking your investment, whether that's a licensing arrangement and you're trying to protect your intellectual property, or actually putting boots on the ground, a factory, capital equipment, whether that's 100% your own, you've got all this infrastructure. So next slide, please. Thanks. So there are 12 targeted industries. You can see these in front of you. You'll note the logistics there at the bottom left, aerospace and logistics that Barry spoke to. But all of these industries really actually are embedded. They're over probably about 3,500 foreign invested and Thai invested companies in the eastern seaboard of this EEC, the 3 provinces that you heard about. You'll note there on the bottom, defense industry is one of those, and it really leverages on all the other 11. But I think it's worth knowing what those industries are that are prioritized, and they are manifest in the Board of Investment policy. Next slide, please, Brian. So this slide is relevant both for the STEM-based worker and technology, but also supply chain, raw materials, and logistics. So there are really 5 industries that I think most of the U.S. defense contractors are interested in looking at Thailand, particularly given that major non-NATO ally status that Catherine Spillman outlined. And that's aviation, what's determined as intelligent electronics, automation, and robotics. Next generation automotive, but really it's everything EV, including trucks, bicycles, tuk-tuk carts, and then digital. These are the things, but I think having that dual use technology really provides a lot of flexibility for anybody in the defense industry to come into Thailand to tap into these supply chain resources. So cybersecurity is a big part of this, as well as just the ability to take advantage of what's already going on here in the backyard of Thailand. Next slide, please. So this is another view of the EEC. You see the Thailand there in the middle, and then this eastern seaboard. But this infrastructure is significant. The roads, I mean, we're talking 8 and 10 lane roads. The high-speed rail that Barry spoke to, Utapao being the third international airport in this corridor, as well as the deep sea port. So significant private sector and government investment. You can see the various areas there that are designated out that would have an overlay for anybody who's thinking about being closer to this market out here. So I think it has some real advantages, and you can tap into that supply chain. Next slide, please. So this slide it gives you an excellent snapshot of what the board investment is doing and trying to grow and demonstrate its seriousness about investment into the defense industry. So it's a fairly methodical process in terms of an application where you profile your company, whether you're doing a joint venture, whether you're licensing or doing 100% your own. This really has nothing to do with the Treaty of Amity, but you can have 100% foreign-owned business here. You can own freehold land, but the big thing is the tax incentives that really inure to the investment, and the higher the value of this of the technology and the application, particularly STEM-based, the longer that those can reach out, as you'll see in the subsequent slides. Don't change the slide yet. They can go out as long as 13 to 15 years, but usually the average is about 8 years, 8 to 10 years. And then there are a variety of non-tax benefits that really are on par with a lot of companies want to go to Singapore because it's so easy, but Thailand's really pushed the edge of the envelope here on that. On the bottom right, just like U.S. Commercial Services does, there is a lot of matchmaking and services that the BOI provides to help you get a flatter learning curve to de-risk your investment, to de-risk how you're going to come about. So one of the asks, if you are coming out to the Defense and Security Expo on the 6th through 9th of November, is come a little bit early. Come later. Bolt on a couple of extra days. There's lots to see in the EEC. It's only about an hour and 20-minute drive. The next, I think I'm about to wrap up. Brian, if you could these next few slides, there are 3 slides that will be in the deck. As Brian mentioned, these will be on the Kallman website as well as the American Chamber of Thailand Commerce, but these are the actual discrete chapters or sections in the BOI guidelines that talk about defense industry sectors where they're very well thought out, and you can see the ratings can range from A2 to A1. These are, and some of these you can own 100%, some of them you have to have a partnership. But I think this is a very good resource as you might do some preparation. I think there might be one more slide there. Yeah. So a little bit about the capital requirements. You only need $1 million baht, which is about $30,000 US to invest. Obviously, in the defense industry, would be much higher. The gearing is quite reasonable. You can have debt to equity of 3 to 1. A lot of value added. They really focus in on the technology and this knowledge transfer, but also protecting your intellectual property. Green is important, and of course the ISO certifications come along with that. So these are just some perspectives that I think would help any good investor or licensor come into Thailand, particularly with the dual use technologies and leveraging the supply chain. So Brian, that's it for me. I think we're going to get to the real meat of the webinar this evening. Back to you.
Great. Thank you, Charlie. At this point, as Charlie mentioned, we'll be transitioning into a roundtable discussion that'll be moderated by Frank Timmons, Senior Manager at Tractus USA. Frank has over 30 years of experience operating in Thailand's manufacturing and supply chain sectors. He has successfully run several businesses and factory operations. Frank, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And our first panelist this evening is Mr. Billy R. And Billy leads the fulfillment in Asia Pacific for Baxter Healthcare. He's responsible for international transportation, import-export operations, warehousing, and distribution across 14 markets in the region, including Baxter's Rayong, Thailand manufacturing facility. Previously, Billy spent over 13 years at Johnson & Johnson, where he led multiple supply chain and business development roles. Billy holds an MBA in supply chain from the University of Tennessee and a BA in economics and Asian Middle Eastern studies from Dartmouth College. He is based in Thailand. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Billy Arrow.
Thank you very much, Frank. I guess we can get started with the next slide. And good morning to everyone on the call. I'll give a brief introduction about Baxter if you're not familiar. Baxter is an international global healthcare company producing medical devices and pharmaceuticals. And specifically in Thailand, there's two businesses that we operate. One is a trading business where we import products that are manufactured mainly in the US or in the EU regions. And we sell them to the hospitals here. And then also we do manufacture, we have a manufacturing plant in the Eastern Economic Corridor in Rayong in an industrial estate where we produce peritoneal dialysis solutions. So technologies at the plant include water for injection, plastic extrusion, sterilization capabilities, and then an assembly line for our solution bags. That's a brief introduction, and I'll move to the next slide and share a little bit about when you're operating a supply chain in the Indo-Pacific, what are some of the things or considerations that you would have? You know, one, the reason that we are here is, you know, we want to be close to our customers. So you want to look at where are your customers, what markets do you want to access? Being close to them will give you the agility to be able to respond to changes in the market and demand and what might be needed as a competitive advantage. Additionally, depending on how you access those customers, what does the logistics infrastructure and port access look like? So that includes both the sea and airports. I think Barry spoke a little bit about some of those advantages that exist in Thailand, and we definitely do take advantage of that. The largest port in Thailand for sea is in Lam Chabang, which is in the Chonburi province near the Eastern Economic Corridor, in the Eastern Economic Corridor. And it's something that allows us then to have regular service, both for import of raw materials, import of products for sale in Thailand, as well as export of our manufactured goods across the greater Southeast Asia region. Another area to consider is, you know, what technical capabilities you may need. So specifically, and I think Barry also touched on this, if you need engineering skills or technical personnel, specifically for, you know, healthcare in our industries, we have found that, you know, Thailand is advantageous in terms of having, you know, being able to find those with this technical skills needed to operate our manufacturing facility, especially relative to some of the other Southeast Asia countries that are nearby. And then lastly, and then also for third-party suppliers of raw materials and services. So we have moved to be able to source a lot of our raw materials, including plastic resins, for our tubing, and some of our other even component manufactured materials from third parties locally, which gives us a significant advantage in terms of inventory holdings and also just turnaround time and cycle time. And then also related to services. So to support the logistics, your import, your export and operations, there are a lot of multinational firms in Thailand that actually support those services and really make that a seamless operation and simplifying a lot of that. And lastly, for other things to consider, tax, I think Charlie already talked a lot about that. Trade agreements, leveraging free trade agreements for trade within the ASEAN region is and can be helpful as well. So we were able to take advantage of some of that as well as within the greater Indo-Pacific area. So those are just some thoughts, and I'll turn it over back to Frank for the next panelist.
Billy, thank you very much. And our second panelist is Kun Wirya Galwilai. And Kun Wirya is a Senior Director of Thailand Operations for Kenvue, which was previously known as Johnson & Johnson Consumer Health. She has more than 20 years of end-to-end supply chain experience across global, regional, and local cross-functional roles in the consumer health, pharmaceutical, and medical device sectors. Currently, Kun Wirya is responsible for the end-to-end operations of the manufacturing plant in Thailand. She holds 3 master's degrees in finance, economics, and global supply chain from universities in the UK and the USA. Kun Wirya has work and leadership experience in China, Singapore, USA, and Thailand. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kun Wirya.
Thank you very much, Frank. And firstly, allow me to share more, a little bit of the background on Kenvue. Next slide, please. So at Kenvue, we realized the extraordinary power of everyday care. And we are the largest pure play consumer health company by revenue. And formerly known as Johnson & Johnson Consumer Health, we became the independent company from Johnson & Johnson in August 2023. When we also joined the S&P 500 in the New York Stock Exchange. So from Tylenol to Band-Aid to Listerine, we actually have a lot of iconic brands that we support the markets. And right now, we actually been operating over 135 years across 165 markets. Next slide, please. So we have been in Thailand for over 50 years, and our manufacturing site in Thailand is situated in Lat Krabang Industrial Estate. And we manufactured products for Listerine, Aveeno, Johnson's Baby, and OGX to support over 38 markets across Asia Pacific, North America, and EMEA. So our Thailand plant has been recognized by the Lighthouse Destination, by the World Economic Forum in 2022 for leveraging the fourth industrial revolution technology. We also been recognized as supporting the sustainable operations from Alliance for Water Stewardship certifications to Eco Factory Awards last year, to Gold Level of Truth certification for zero waste, and fourth level industry green industry awards by Ministry of Industry this year. Next slide, please. What these credits illustrate is that Thailand has proven to be the favorable environment for our company. And I'd like to touch on a few major enablers for this. First, technology is absolutely changing the game. And we see this as a crucial for the resilient supply chain. So Thai economic model support the advancement of the digital infrastructure and create opportunities for the increase in automations and digitalization in supply chain. Our Thailand plant has been a leading site to pilot many of the advancement of the technological and digital advancement for Kenvue globally. Second, Thailand is home to a competitive labor market. As Billy has mentioned, we actually have a lot of laborers that are with high literacy, know many languages, and high skilled workers that actually focus on engineering and operations space. So we are able to attract strong and diverse talent to unlock our full potential of our operations. Now with these two enablers together with the location that has a well-developed transport infrastructure. We actually have a very good access to international airport as well as seaport. At the same time, we also have the access for the global supplier for raw and packaging material with close proximity. With this, we have a lot of benefits for us with collaboration, innovation, and optimization of the location with our value chain. With all of these benefits, these enablers actually make us in Kallman plant to become one of the strategic plant in the company. Thank you. Over to you, Frank.
Well, thank you very much, Kumwidaya. Our third speaker, last but certainly not least, is Mr. Sebastian Robertson. And Sebastian, or Seb, as he is commonly called, is the General Manager of Global Sales at RMA Automotive. Seb has been in the automotive industry for over 23 years, starting out his career in the UK at Siemens VDO, which is now Continental, as resident engineer based at the customer locations of Jaguar Land Rover, International Truck and Engine, and Cummins in the USA. He then moved to CNH Industrial, which took him to Chongqing, China, as platform director of engines at Fiat Powertrain. In 2014, Seb started work at Ford Thailand in the program team setting up process of calculating regional value content, RVC, to take advantage of the applicable free trade agreements, as well as setting up special vehicle engineering functions in Thailand. Here, he closely worked with RMA on various projects before moving over to RMA in 2018. Seb has a diverse international background, having lived across the globe as a dual national and is bilingual in French and English. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Seb Robertson.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. Okay, shall we move on to the next slide? Thank you. Okay. Okay, so thank you. Just a quick background on who RMA Group, RMA Automotive is. RMA is a privately owned company. It's 35 years old. The owners are Thai American citizens. So again, taking advantage of what Barry was mentioning about the agreements between the USA and Thailand. We're 35 years young and have exported well over 300,000 vehicles across the globe over the years, 43,000 of those going to TACOM into Afghanistan, as you see in the picture, as well as to our key clients of the United Nations, as well as government entities and fleet customers around the globe. We have about 8,000 employees, and we're located in 14 countries, with our main hub being Thailand. Okay, next slide, please. So we're quite a diverse group. We've got 5 pillars. We've got infrastructure, so heavy equipment like John Deere, power generation and so forth. Then we do financial services, where we have joint ventures with banks to really support our retail operations. Engineering solutions, we have a company called Kallman that does everything from building maintenance all the way up to infrastructure, EV infrastructure and solar panel farms and so forth. And then hospitality, where we have a number of fast food restaurants. But about 70% of our Thailand, Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and so forth. But we also do fleet sales. So again, effectively this worldwide distributor for Ford for any government fleet and military business. And then we do modifications and design, which is really what I'm here to talk about today. So next slide, thank you. Okay, so what does this Thailand supply chain mean for RMA? So effectively, our Our main flagship plant is located in the free zone of Lamshabang in the eastern seaboard, not too far from Pattaya, about 5 kilometers from the big deep sea port of Lamshabang. And it's really there because 2/3 of the world's one-ton pickups effectively are built in that region and pass straight across our front door on the way to the ships. So that means that as a group, especially having so many vehicles and parts being shipped around the globe, we have to be very strong in the logistics. So we've got a really good, I think one of our strengths is our logistic teams that we do in-house. And those guys are very well versed on the procedures and regulations required to navigate what can be a complex customs process. At the same time, we need to work very closely with various government entities. So, for example, Ministry of Defense. Why? Because we need permits on anything military, whether that being importing stuff like armored glass, armored panels, also exporting military equipment for use abroad. We need to have close relationships with NBTC. That's the National Broadcasting Telecommunications Commission. That's really to make sure that we're compliant with any GPS tracking, communication, radio equipment, whether that be importing or exporting. Then we need to have close communication with the Department of Industrial Works, mainly for storage of chemicals, paint, special paints, for example, infrared reflective paint, and all that all needs the very strict conditions on storage, handling, and usage. So additionally, we have quite a big footprint in terms of spare parts. So in Lamshabang, we have 10,000 meter storage warehouse. Effectively, we need to not only build our vehicles, but we have to keep them running in the field. So, for example, a lot of military customers expect to have their vehicles running for at least 15 years. OEMs tend to guarantee supply for 10 years after a vehicle's end of life. So that means that we need to find suppliers that can, carry on producing OEM parts effectively for another 5 years. So the other thing is that, the days of having a Land Rover Defender where it's the same vehicle for 50, 60 years, they're well gone. Effectively now, OEMs have a life cycle of about 6 years until they change their vehicle. And certainly militaries aren't on that same wavelength. So, definitely taking an off-the-shelf vehicle, Ford Ranger, for example, modifying it for a military perspective is certainly a lot cheaper than doing a whole new development. It also gives a good image, because if a taxpayer sees a Ranger or an Everest driving down the highway, it doesn't look to be a very expensive equipment, even though they are severely modified. So one thing that we're very good at as well, and I think Barry mentioned this with his aircraft, is being able to predict. You have to be able to have the right amount of storage of parts in trying to predict when in the life cycle they'll fail, and to be able to guarantee the supply. Typically, the Army want a vehicle has to be back on the road within 7 days of failure. Okay, so you have to be very good at your supply chain of not only getting your parts in for your production, but also supporting fleet vehicles that are out there. Okay, next slide, please. Right, some examples of the products that RMA do. You can see quite diverse in terms of emergency rescue. We go from box-type ambulances all the way up to a $2 million mobile stroke with a CT scanner inside. We also do, the range of defense and security vehicles. So you can see the biggest challenges. Thailand is definitely, like you would say, the Detroit of Asia. One challenge that we do have is our volumes are certainly nowhere near that of the big OEMs. So, we have to fight for attention, let's say, because I might only need, 2,000 bull bars or bumpers, whereas an OEM will be buying 50,000 a year or whatever. So that's certainly a little challenge. And then obviously we're quite diverse in what we need to to buy. So if we go to the next slide. Thank you. So how we do it in RMA, we've effectively bucketed our three main segments for our main commodities. So we've got the metal systems, so any metal fabrication, bumpers, and so forth, as well as our drivetrain components. So steering, suspension, wheels, tires. We typically design our own and then find suppliers to make that. So we either completely design, co-design, and then outsource for the manufacturer. Electrical systems goes from anything from wiring harness. So we do wiring harnesses in-house, the low volume prototype build, and any larger volume, we go outside. We typically try and keep the same suppliers as the major OEMs. So certainly helps things go quicker. What I'd say about Thailand is, there is a good network of professional buyers. Again, I think Barry mentioned it as well. He's getting a lot of buyers coming from the automotive. So certainly the automotive industry in the region is very big. And you know, Thailand does have a number of recognized industries. So automotive, aviation, oil and gas. I mean, the good fact is Thailand has some of the best welders in the world, specifically because of oil and gas. If you can weld a pipe underwater at 50 meters, then there's no problem welding together armored panels. So there is a good pool of suppliers, again, following the automotive industry. And the other good thing about Thailand is it international standards. So there are all the laboratories, you know, test benches, anywhere you need certification, emission testing, and so forth. That is available here in Thailand. So certainly makes the region strategic. Okay, next slide. So where do we buy our components? So this is a fast-changing world. We take advantage of all the free trade and agreements. So, you know, ASEAN, after the recent free trade agreement between China and Thailand as well, Korea, Australia, Japan, India. One big thing about that is mainly achieving the local content. So 42% local content is typically the rule. That means not just having 42% in value, it also means significant process. So, for example, you bring in a piece of metal, you stamp it, you bend it and paint it. That would be significant process. So basically a change in HS codes. However, okay, again, not so relevant for military where typically they're duty exempt, but for other industries, having that ability to be able to pull local content. So, for example, after you take all the countries of ASEAN, achieving that local content isn't so difficult, and certainly makes it gives you a competitive advantage. So where we source most of our stuff from, obviously a lot from Thailand to Vietnam, Malaysia. We do India, typically a lot of electronics, wiring harness. Greater China, Taiwan we use for electronics as well. Albeit we are trying to strategically move away into the region, so away from China into other stuff. The most high-tech stuff is coming from Europe, USA, and to the point Australia. And then, for example, we've just opened up a plant in Cambodia where we're doing KD on behalf of Ford for the Ford Ranger and Ford Everest. So we're seeing how we can entice partners to open up in Cambodia in the region as well. So again, I think it was mentioned before, certainly a very easy center for logistics. We've got airports, trade lines, Namche Port, and so forth. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So now we'll start the Q&A portion.
Fantastic. We have a couple of questions that have come in over the last hour. For the benefit of everybody that's involved here, there was a question from Chris Green with a little bit of background, so I published that to the chat. For those of you that can't see it, potentially at Just Magtai, the question is, my company is a U.S. public benefit corporation. Our expertise is in product development, live R&D of product, on operations and training with NATO units and allied countries, and development of brigade-sized mass HADAR as private HADAR org, not an NGO. We would like to ask what scope of possibility there is to work with Thai MOD, Thai defense manufacturers, to co-develop NATO-compatible HADR equipment and software, inclusive of ground, naval, and air systems and crafts.
HADR is Humanitarian Assistance Disaster Relief.
That's something that RMA is involved with?
Yes, certainly. I think from RMA perspective, if you're talking high tech, battle systems and stuff, that's not so much in the RMA. We're talking more vehicle related. But yeah, I think Joel as well, the big project you're working on. So I think there's certainly scope. I've been at a few seminars with the Thai defense, especially companies like LG from Taiwan, certainly coming over for exactly that purpose. I do think the advantage of being an American company coming over with NATO would, certainly there's opportunities here, and something I think quite the upcoming military show in November would be something that you might want to come and investigate further.
Thank you, Steph.
Great, thank you. And secondly, from Chris Green, we would like to ask what potential there would be for our defense industry supported apprenticeship scheme to establish an industrial skills and logistics college in Thailand, twinned with our HADR organization, regional logistics hub for ASEAN AOR operations. And for our organization to feed from, but also to harness the next generation to think about careers in defense industries and supply a better qualified, skilled, and tech proficient youth worker into a friendly allied defense industry that benefits the United States.
Okay, anybody have any thoughts on that? How about our best educated Thai colleague, 3 master's degrees?
Look, in terms of the talent pool, right? I would say, as I shared earlier, most of the Thai people actually are very skilled. Now, whether these skilled workers is actually looking at engineering and being trained later on to support the industry, I think that's an opportunity that we can look at. But definitely in terms of the capability that actually have been proven in many industries, I think I would say that that's a very positive direction that I'm seeing for the talent pool in Thailand.
Barry, you talked about a lot of your upskilling, your hires. You want to talk about that a little bit? Is that relevant?
Yeah, yes, it is. We have to partner with all of the universities in the EEC, especially the technical colleges. And the companies offer internships. We normally get between 6 to 9 months for them during the 3rd to 4th year. So if the question is asking, is it easy to work with the Thai government and the education? Yes, it is.
Yeah, just to add to that, I saw the mobile stroke unit that I showed earlier. That was developed in conjunction with Mahidol University and Siraj Hospital. Okay, so actually last week I was in Singapore showing it at the World Inventors Fair. But certainly there's a big scope to do that kind of partnership, and there's a lot of appetite for that.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Fantastic. Okay, another question here. What are the specific analogs of Kenvue and Baxter for supply chain and logistics that could benefit defense contractors looking to set up production operations in Thailand?
Sure, I can take a stab at that. So I think it's both of the industries are strategic industries that will be supported by the Thai government. So therefore, I think Charlie spoke to a lot of the benefits that are potentially on offer, depending on exactly what it is that you do, the amount of investment that you're making into the country, and then the period of which that you are invested here. I think strong STEM base in terms of the education that exists here. And then being able to then build that out into a technical engineering capability. And I've noticed that it's much stronger in Thailand relative to some of the other Southeast Asian countries that I've worked across as well. So I think those are, for me, probably some of the key areas there's some parallels.
Yeah, and if I can add on the logistics point of view, right? Because Thailand has a very good infrastructure. And from Kenville ourselves, we actually export to over 38 markets. And we actually have a strong logistics partnership with many companies that actually help us to do that. So I would say that, that's going to actually help if you actually want to kind of export the products out of Thailand. We have a good infrastructure ready for that.
I think, and just to build on that too, and the de-risking and also containing your capital investment is because the supply chain is quite advanced and mature here. Your level of working capital investment is not as significant as it might otherwise be in other regions of the world. And you have 640 million consumers right at the doorstep here in ASEAN. So this is quite relevant as well. Even your health services and pharmaceutical companies, but there is an analog here that carries over to defense. And your standards are very rigorous, very high. Hey, Brian, I wanted to go back the question that was asked by, I think it was your first question, with regard to maybe how to leverage anybody attending the Defense and Security Expo in November. There is going to be some business matching that will come up, and there are actually several channels that can go down. Of course, U.S. Commercial Services, they have a defense and aerospace desk that actually has a very robust list, and even with a week or two planning, there can be some good meetings set up. It's a nominal charge, but it works quite well, and they have an excellent database. The other one is effectively the private sector business trade association called INDSA. There are roughly 60 Thai-owned defense contractors here in the Kingdom of Thailand that cooperate. The U.S. is actually the second largest exhibitor at the Defense Expo, second to Thailand. But it's a significant industry, and a lot of those are dual use, civilian versus defense. But they have a very robust website. There are probably maybe 20 or 25 that would be relevant for some of the members of the audience that would be looking to come out. And then also, I think in terms of other business matching, leveraging not only INDSA, but the American Chamber of Commerce is a great resource. Just to visit and talk. We have over 680 member companies. I think we're about to get back to pre-COVID levels. While there are a handful of defense contractors, it's the powerfulness of a lot of the investment that's here. U.S. has over $52 billion invested. We employ over 250,000 people here in the Kingdom of Thailand. That's U.S. AmCham members. So this is another chance to leverage attendance at that trade show. So I just wanted to share that.
Excellent. Many thanks. We probably have time for one more question here. Question is regarding Utapao. Why is it such an important infrastructure investment? What's its potential for defense contractors looking to establish production in the EEC?
Why is Utapao so important? I would say it's more important to the commercial side than to the defense side. It's always been a Navy defense base, but there's been no industry.
But a defense contractor who would want to come and set up here some level of production or joint venture, how can they leverage
that? Yeah. Just in most cases, the defense contractor coming here are not going to be selling only to the Thai industry. So it doesn't matter where they set up, the incentives that the government has given to locate in that area is what's the benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. 95% of what we make goes to export. As being here, you take advantage of BOI, you take advantage of supply chain and that, but the reality of customers aren't here. So, yeah.
All right. Fantastic. We have time for one more. Question is, we have a solution for cyber training for defense and other entities. It can be on-premise for groups how would we find a partner to resell it for us?
Good question. Is that something that you might be able to address, Charlie?
For the cybersecurity, actually tomorrow here at JustMag, we're celebrating the 70th anniversary, and we have the United States government has a very close relationship with the Ministry of Defense. Part of that is the DTI, the Defense Technology Institute, which is kind of like a think tank, but also has a commercial orientation. That's DTI, if you were to Google that, DTI, Defense Technology Institute. And I think as opposed to spending monies on traditional weaponry and munitions, this is certainly still important, but the cybersecurity, whether it's power or utilities or border control, I think this is where DTI, I think, is taking a leadership role and would welcome and is welcoming U.S. and NATO focused, NATO origin companies to come in and cooperate. Joel, maybe you could elaborate on that a little bit, or I mean, if you're comfortable with that. Let's see.
Try to get the whole table in view here to wrap up. I know that cyber is definitely a growing concern on the Thai side. Cyber is something that Thailand is taking quite seriously. They've had quite a number of attacks on their cyber infrastructure so far that have caused that to be to come into focus. It also kind of aligns with, and Charlie, this could go into your court as well. It also aligns with bringing in skilled workers that would be able to bring technology transfer potentially into the region, into the country, and also qualify for some of the higher tax incentives for the company, maybe even for the workers themselves. So I would say that in terms of cybersecurity, Thailand is a place that you should be considering. We've talked a lot about supply chain and materials here, but there's also a strong presence here, also in the Eastern Economic Corridor for service-based type industries as well. The strongest internet connections are going straight to the Eastern Economic Corridor, surprisingly enough, not Bangkok. So that should be an indication of some of those burgeoning technologies and where Thailand would like to go with it, combined with some of the tax incentives that might get them there.
And if I could just add sorry, it's Catherine Spillman from the Commercial Service. We also do matchmaking. So if you would like to reach out to us, we can put you in touch with our industry expert who can assess the potential in the market for your product and advise you as to strategies and services that we have that we can deploy on your behalf.
Fantastic. Thank you. Great. And Chuck, just so you know, I will pass along the request for the team over there at Just Mag Thai to see if there's a contact at DTI to reach out to put you in contact with. Okay. We definitely appreciate you all for spending time with us this morning. I'm going to jump to a slide with some contact information. Again, this presentation will be distributed, so you don't have to worry about screenshotting or scribbling any names and email addresses down right away. As Catherine and Charlie mentioned earlier, Kallman Worldwide is once again organizing the U.S. presence at Defense and Security Thailand, which is taking place in Bangkok this November 6 through 9. While a handful of you are already set up to exhibit, we have a couple of locations still available for reservation. Please feel free to contact me or one of my colleagues for more information. With that, again, thank you so much for attending our webinar this morning. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to anybody that you see on this contact information slide. Have a great day.